It's possible that you've always desired to have the ability to delegate tasks to your team members, but you probably don't know how to do it, or at least you've not been taught the process. In this video, I'm going to teach you the 8-step process on how to delegate tasks to your team members. This is a process I've taught for about 6 years now, and we've been getting really good results in our company and with our clients. So I believe that it's going to help you. Now, feel free to modify the process as you go, but my recommendation is follow the process step by step. And after you experiment with it and see what kind of results you get, now you can modify it. So let's get to it. Like I said, there are 8 steps to the delegation process. Step number 1 is to determine the task. There's a process of determining the tasks you need to delegate. Let's say, hypothetically, you have 10 items on your list, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10. Now, unless they are very tiny tasks, you're not going to complete all those tasks in one day. How do you determine which task to do first? The rule of thumb is that you need to find the top 20%, the most valuable task from the 10, the high impact tasks from those 10. So how do you determine your top 20%? You need to list down all your tasks, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10, without judging them. And then you have another list of 1 to 10. Don't put anything on it yet. And then you look at this list of 10 items that you need to work on and ask yourself, if I had time to do only one task from the list of 10, if I had time to do only one task, what would that task be? So you pick that one task from the 10 and you move it to the new list. Now that's going to be your number 1, the number 1 on the priority list. And then you go back to the list of 9 and you ask yourself the same question. If I had time to do only one task today, what would that be? You get that task, you move it to the new list. And that's how you get to prioritize. So you follow the same process with the 8, the 7, all the way until you have a new list of 10 items, and that's called a priority list. Step number 2 is to select the right employee. And the key word is to select. You don't just determine the task and then you throw it to your team members and you go like, hey, whoever wants to do this task, go ahead and take care of it. That's being careless. And I believe you are not that kind of a leader. So you need to select the right employee. How do you qualify the employee? Several factors. Number 1, do they have the skill? Do they have the competence? Can they get the job done? Have they done it in the past? What kind of results did they get? Did they do a good job? If they didn't do a good job, did you coach them to learn how to do it better next time? And are they ready to do it the right way this time? Are they passionate about that task? Now, every time I talk about passion, people go like, that's not practical because we don't always do the things we are passionate about. I totally get it. We don't always do the things we are passionate about, but why not give it a shot? If you can find someone who is passionate about talking to customers, being at the front desk, about follow-up, about all the things that you need to be done, why not give it to them? So it's possible there's someone who is passionate about that. I'll tell you this. I am so passionate about connecting with people that my highest value task is to get out there and connect with people on behalf of my company. I'm so passionate about speaking and being on stage that one of the highest and the most impactful tasks and projects to do, if you can call it a project, is getting on stage and speaking about our company, about our services, inspiring and empowering people, which I get paid for. So if I can do that every single day, that will be heaven for me. Now, I get to do other tasks, which I don't really enjoy that much, but I delegate as much as I can. So you need to select the right employee, someone who has the skill, the competence, the passion, the ability, and also the time to do it. Number 3 is to communicate clearly about the task. I've seen all kinds of things where leaders determine the task, they find the right person, and then vaguely communicate about the task. You need to be as comprehensive as it's needed. Communicate very clearly. This is the task. This is how it needs to be done. This is the time frame by when it needs to be done. These are the expected results. This is what you are going to use the results for. Like, you really paint that picture for them to understand what the task is all about. Because depending on the perception we have about the task, on how important we think it is, we get to expand our energy and our effort and our attention accordingly. So make sure you communicate clearly about the task. Step number 4, review that process together with the employee. Okay, let's say you've determined the task, you selected the employee, you've communicated very clearly, and now they know what to do, how to do, when to do it, what's expected. Then you need to review the task process together. And this is even before they start working on it. I believe every major task has a process. This is what I've seen happen many times. People tend to take shortcuts when you're not paying attention. Now, I'm not saying to micromanage them. What I'm saying is you need to remind people of the process. There's a reason you have the process in place. There's a reason things are done the way they are supposed to be done in your company. Now, if you have doubts about the process, by all means, you need to go to your boss or go to your leaders and ask them, can we improve this process? But until then, you need to make sure the process is being followed, because that's how you can get results faster. That's how you can get predictable results. And that's how you can serve your customers and your clients and the market that you serve the best way possible. So review the process together with this particular employee and say, okay, I know you know how to do it, but let's go through the process. Let's say my employee is called Sandra. I would sit down with Sandra and I'll say, Sandra, you have this task. Can you walk me through the process and what you're planning to do? Now, I'm going to listen to Sandra as she goes from step 1, step 2, all the way to step 10. And what I'm listening for is, number 1, confidence. I'm listening for certainty. I'm listening for assurance that she knows what's supposed to be done. I'm listening for conviction. Does she really believe that this is the process, or is it just a wishy-washy thing in her head? And I'm listening for any gaps. If she goes from step 1, step 2, then she skips step 3 and goes to step 4 because she feels step 3 is unnecessary, I'm not going to interrupt her. I'm just going to let her continue all the way till the end. And then I'm going to take notes and I'll say, hey, I'm just curious. I noticed that you skipped step 3. Can you tell me more about that? Why do you think it's not necessary? Now, I'm trying to figure out her thinking process, because until I get to know what she's thinking, her reasoning behind her skipping that particular step, then I won't be able to help her accordingly. So going through the process is way more than just checking a box. You need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do that. It needs to be a listening session. It needs to be a coaching session. It needs to be a reinforcement session whenever you sit down with them. Step number 5 is to obtain commitment. I don't know about you, but there have been so many times where I gave someone a task and we agreed on it. They told me they can do it. I know they can do it. They agreed. We communicated very clearly. We reviewed the process together and they still dropped the ball. I came to realize is that they logically understood what needed to be done, but right after they left my office, their priorities were different. Now, it doesn't make them bad people. I've seen managers and leaders, again, accuse people. They say, I can't believe you let me down. You said you were going to do it, and then you did not do it. What's wrong with you? And you call them all kinds of names. First off, that's unprofessional. And when people don't do things the way they're supposed to be done, when people break their promises, it doesn't make them bad people. It just means that they did not do it. And you as a leader, you are responsible for finding out why they did not do it. That means you need to be objective, you need to be professional, you need to be kind, you need to be firm as you ask these questions, because you're trying to figure out what's the cause of the problem. How come they did not do it even after they committed to do it? And that's why step number 5 is very important for you to obtain commitment. And here's how I like to do it. After we've gone through the task, this is how it's supposed to be done, this is the timeline, I would say, Sandra, this task is really important to me. It's important to the company. And I feel you are the right person to do this task. That's why I picked you. Here's the question I have for you. Can I count on you to do this task the way it's supposed to be done within the time frame that is supposed to be done? And what I'm looking for is for Sandra to say, yes, I can do it. Yes, I'm going to do it. Yes, I'm going to follow the process. And the question is, can I count on you? And whenever they say yes, that increases your chances of them getting the job done. Now, people might think, why do I have to ask that question? It's their job to do their task. I pay them for that. They said they're going to do it. If you want to increase your chances of getting that particular task done so you don't have to redo it, then you got to go through that step of asking for a commitment. Step number 6 is to agree on the timeline. You might have told them that the task is important to me, it needs to be done within 2 days, but you need to go back and agree on the timeline. Just because I feel it needs to be done within 3 days, just because I have a timeline on my calendar by when it needs to be done, it doesn't mean that's going to be their timeline. Let me explain. People always assign importance of things based on what they think is important to them. And that means even before I go to Sandra to ask Sandra, hey, can you help me with this task? Sandra already has a list. It's a long list. According to her, it's an important list. It's a special list. It's a high impact list. So whenever I come in, I'm just adding one more thing to her list. So it's my job to influence Sandra and to communicate to her and to show her that the task that I'm giving you right now, it's a high impact task. And I'm asking you to make it one of your priority tasks. My goal is to get a see from my perspective how this task is important. So here's how I like to do it. I would say, okay, Sandra, again, thank you for agreeing to do this task for me. Just so you know, I need the task to be done within 7 days because I'm going to meet with my boss next week. We're going to be discussing about it because we need to make some decisions based on the outcome of this particular task. And I need your help to make that happen. Can we go through a few timelines here? If you can agree on what needs to be done when, and then I ask Sandra, is that doable? Do you think you can get this done within 7 days? Do you think you can do step 1 and 2 within 2 days? 3 and I'm looking for, yes, I can do it. And yes, I'm going to do it almost every single time. You as a leader, you have to listen and hear what they are not telling you. That means my team member might say, yes, I'm going to do it. Yes, I'm willing to do it. Yes, I'm able to do it within that timeline, but their tone might say something different. Their body language might say something different. So I should be able to see what they are not showing me and hear what they're not telling me. Now, I'm not asking you to become a detective and pay attention to every little thing, but if you can slow down and pay attention to what they're saying, and how they're saying it, their tone, their body language, then you'll be able to pick on a few things. Not for you to call them out and call them a liar, but for you to help them. Because whenever people lie to you, it's not because they are bad people. Sometimes it's because they are doing some self-preservation. They're trying not to look bad or not to look like they're not competent. They're trying not to let you down. They're trying to look like they care. Some people may not tell you the whole truth. They might say, yes, I can do it, but deep inside, they are freaking out because they have no idea how they're going to do it. So it's up to you to help them feel comfortable and be able to tell you, I know you asked me to do this, but really, I don't know how to do it. Can you show me how to do it? Or I can do 50% of it. Can you show me how to do the other 50%? So make sure you agree on the timeline. Step number 7 is to set up a follow-up system. If the project is going to take a day, probably you don't need to set up a follow-up system because you give them a task today, tomorrow they give you the results. But if it's going to take more than a day, 2 days, 3 days, 7 days, a month, you need to have a follow-up system. This is how I prefer to do it. I'll look at Sandra and I'll say, I want to make sure we get this task done within 7 days as we agreed. But I also want to make sure that I'm available for you whenever you need me. I know you are going to be busy, so I want to make sure that I'm available for you. One of the things that work for me very well is setting up a follow-up system so that we can touch base occasionally, get together on the phone or on a Zoom call or in person if we work in the same office at the end of the day or every other day, just to see where you're at, but also to figure out if you need any help. If you agree on touching base every single day, agree on the time, agree on how many minutes, agree. If it's a phone call, who is going to call who? Is Sandra going to call me or am I going to call Sandra? If it's a Zoom call, who is going to set it up? It's the little details that matter a lot when it comes to delegation and making sure that the tasks are done the way they're supposed to be done. Step number 8 is review and celebrate success. Let's say that task has been done successfully. It's 7 days and you get the final results. And Sandra did a great job. What I would do is to slow down and say, I just want to say thank you so much for working on this project, for taking care of this task, for seeing it to completion. I appreciate that. How about we celebrate? And it doesn't have to be big. Could be like, let's go grab some coffee together, or let's go to the break room and talk about it. Let me walk you through the process of reviewing the results. We'll look at what they did, the results we got, and what they would have done to get better results. What they did, the results we got, and then what they should have done, and then what they need to do next time to get better results. And it will be like, Sandra, it looks like you got this task up to 90% is good enough. We're just going to go ahead and submit it. So can you walk me through your process? Again, I'm listening to their steps and what they did and how they approached it. And I'm trying to figure out the gaps. And then I'll ask them, what do you think would have been done differently to get better results? And most of the times, by the way, they know what they did wrong. And she would say, I think I should have done this way and this way and this way. And then if I agree with them, or at least if it's in line with the way it's supposed to be done, I would say, yes, that's correct. That's what you should have done. And then I'll say, is it okay if I add one more thing? And I'll add one more thing or two things. I say, next time, if you can try this and this and this, you are likely to get better results. And then I'll ask a commitment question and I'll say, do you feel this is something you can do? Adding these two things that I just suggested, or this one thing that I just suggested. I'm looking for a yes. Yes, I can do it. And yes, I will do it. And then I'll give them a high five and I'll say, thank you so much for doing this. I'm looking forward to the next project that we are going to do together. That's it. It's an 8-step process. Let me just say this. Almost every time I take people through this process, a few people say, it sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like it's going to take a lot of time to go through this process and determining the task, then selecting the employee, communicating clearly, obtaining commitment, going through the process together, and then reviewing it. That's a lot of work, and it can be. But think about it this way. Would it be worth you taking 20 to 30 minutes going through the process and then saving yourself 2 to 3 hours on the back end? Saving yourself stress and headache of having to redo the project, saving yourself worry because you're not sure whether they are going to do it the way it's supposed to be done. And the answer is yes, it's worth it. So take 20 to 30 minutes explaining this task and how it's supposed to be done to this particular employee, and then save yourself time, energy, money, resources, headache, and stress. Now, here's a beautiful thing. If you do this several times with the same employee, they are going to improve that process as you go through it. Remember, the first time they did it up to 80%, the second time 90%, next time 95%, before you know it, probably 98%. And now you're going to spend less time explaining to them because they know how to do it. And this is where the power of delegation comes into play. You get this one employee who is able to do it, and then you teach them how to teach other people how to do the tasks. And that's how you get to duplicate yourself. That's how you get to multiply yourself. And that's where you get to make a bigger impact. So give it a shot. It's an 8-step process on how to delegate tasks. And I'm hoping that it's going to help you save time, money, energy, reduce your stress, create more time for yourself so you can focus on high impact and high value tasks. All the best in your leadership journey. Bye for now.